I want you to imagine, just for a second, that you are walking through central Paris.
Oh, yes, please. I could definitely go for that right now.
Right. I mean, who wouldn't? So you've just finished this absolutely phenomenal lunch with your family. The weather is absolute perfection.
The dream.
Exactly. And your afternoon is entirely free. But instead of wandering down to the Seine or, just exploring the architecture, your brain is absolutely screaming at you.
It's completely demanding you stop.
Yes, screaming at you to find a taxi or a cafe where you could just sit down. And why? Because the heel of your left shoe is rubbing just slightly,
Yep.
and a blister is forming.
It's the worst feeling in the world. It really is.
It ruins the whole day. So today's deep dive is looking at an essay titled, Why Comfortable Shoes Make You Walk Further. And we are exploring how a few millimeters of leather fundamentally rewire human decision-making, everyday movement, and ultimately our long-term public health.
Which is such a brilliant starting point because we so rarely connect the really mundane reality of our footwear to high-level public health outcomes.
No, we really don't.
We tend to view our daily movement as this product of pure motivation. Like, we tell ourselves we aren't walking enough because we lack discipline or...
Or we just don't have the time.
Right, exactly. But the source material we are looking at today argues quite convincingly that the barrier isn't psychological willpower at all. The barrier is physical friction, and it very often starts right at the soles of our feet.
Okay, let's unpack this by starting with the NHS initiative that the essay highlights. Because the National Health Service here in the UK recently pushed a campaign challenging people to walk for 30 minutes a day.
A great initiative, really.
It is. And the framing they use is incredibly clever. They say if you walk 30 minutes a day consistently over a month, you have essentially walked a marathon a month.
Which sounds huge.
Yeah, roughly 26 miles.
It is a masterful piece of behavioral nudging, honestly. Because if you tell an office worker they need to run a marathon to be healthy, they will they'll immediately tune out.
Oh, completely. The cognitive leap is way too far.
Exactly. But 30 minutes of walking a day, that breaks down a massive, totally intimidating physiological goal into a highly accessible daily habit. And the clinical evidence for just 30 minutes of walking is incredibly robust.
Right, it lowers blood pressure.
It lowers blood pressure, improves cardiovascular capacity, maintains joint mobility. It even acts as a really powerful preventative measure against cognitive decline.
Which all sounds brilliant and
Yeah.
frankly very standard for a public health body.
Yeah.
But then, and this is where I actually laughed out loud, reading the essay buried within this grand national health guidance, the NHS includes this incredibly specific, almost comically basic instruction.
Oh, the shoe advice.
With shoe advice. They officially advise people to wear trainers or shoes that are comfortable, that provide adequate support, and that, quote, do not cause blisters.
Yeah.
They even go as far as suggesting that if you commute on the tube or the bus, you should travel in comfortable trainers and physically change into your formal work shoes when you arrive at your desk.
And I know when you first read that, you felt it was a bit patronizing.
I really did. My initial reaction was, surely we don't need a massive government health service to tell grown adults not to wear shoes that cause bleeding.
Right. You'd think it's obvious.
It feels akin to reminding people that water is wet. We treat walking like this completely innate human function, like a free subscription we keep forgetting to use because we've lost the password. But this guidance suggests we are actively failing at it because we can't figure out our own footwear.
Yeah, that our footwear is the password, basically.
Exactly. Are our brains really so easily derailed by a slight pinch in a shoe?
Well, evolutionary speaking, yes. We are entirely that easily derailed.
Really? Just from a pinch?
Oh, absolutely. The feet have one of the highest densities of nerve endings in the entire human body. If you look at a sensory homunculus...
Wait, a what? A homunculus?
Yeah, a sensory homunculus. It's a visual representation of how much brain space is dedicated to processing sensory input from different body parts.
Oh, okay. Like a map of the brain's priorities.
Spot on. And on this map, the hands, the lips, and the feet are massively disproportionate. They are huge.
I suppose because for the vast majority of human history, protecting our feet was a matter of immediate survival.
Precisely that. If our ancestors injured a foot, they couldn't hunt, they couldn't gather, they couldn't flee predators. A foot injury was often a death sentence.
Wow. like that, it makes sense.
Yeah. So the somatosensory cortex in your brain is hardwired to prioritize pain signals coming from your feet above almost all other environmental stimuli.
So it literally overrides everything else.
Exactly. The moment your shoe starts rubbing in Paris, your brain perceives a massive threat to your fundamental mobility. It immediately hijacks your cognitive load, and it just demands that you stop moving to assess and protect the tissue.
You know, that perfectly explains a metaphor I was playing around with while reading this essay. I kept thinking about uncomfortable shoes as a buffering video stream.
Oh, I like that, a buffering stream.
Yeah. You know, when you are completely immersed in a brilliant film, you are entirely lost in the narrative, feeling all the emotions, and then suddenly that little spinning circle appears in the middle of the screen.
And ruins the whole vibe.
The illusion is shattered instantly. You are violently pulled out of the experience and reminded that you are just staring at a plastic box in your living room. Uncomfortable shoes act as the buffering icon of real life.
That is such a good way of putting it.
They violently pull you out of the experience of your own day.
That is a highly accurate way to conceptualize what psychologists call ego depletion.
Ego depletion.
Yeah, we have a finite amount of cognitive bandwidth and willpower to deploy throughout the day. When you are wearing a painful shoe, your brain is simultaneously processing the pain signals and deploying willpower to force you to keep walking despite the pain.
It sounds exhausting.
It is. Furthermore, you are likely subtly altering your natural gait to avoid putting pressure on the sore spot.
Oh, which throws the entire kinetic chain out of alignment. You favor one side, your stride shortens, and suddenly your knees and your lower back are absorbing forces they simply aren't designed to handle.
Exactly. The biomechanical cost just skyrockets. You are burning more physical energy and draining your mental reserves just to get down the pavement.
So by the time you reach a junction, your brain is just done.
It's exhausted. It doesn't want to walk another mile to the museum. It wants to sit in a cafe. Your environment hasn't changed. Your initial motivation hasn't changed, but your biological state has shifted drastically.
And this neurological and biomechanical reality is the exact foundation of the brand Cocorose London, which was founded by the author of our source material today.
Right, and she didn't start with a thesis on evolutionary biology.
No, not at all. Over 20 years ago, she just wanted to solve the immediate, everyday problem of women being stranded on the high street because their footwear was in absolute agony.
What is fascinating about her journey, I think, is the evolution of her understanding. Over 2 decades of designing footwear and speaking with thousands of women, she realized she wasn't just solving a footwear problem.
No, she was solving a behavioral problem.
Exactly. Her overarching observation, the core truth of her business, really distilled down to a very simple maxim: comfort changes behavior.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. Because we flatter ourselves by thinking we make highly rational decisions about our travel.
We do love to think we're logical.
We do. If someone asks me why I took a taxi instead of walking the last mile home, I will tell them I was optimizing my schedule, or I was carrying a heavy bag, or, the weather looked threatening. I will supply a perfectly logical justification.
But the reality of embodied cognition dictates that our physical sensations heavily influence our mental states and choices. Your conscious, rational brain is merely providing a post hoc justification for a decision that your nervous system already made the moment your arch started aching.
Which flips the entire premise of footwear design on its head. According to the essay, the ultimate measure of thoughtful design, the absolute highest compliment a shoe can receive, is that it mentally disappears.
What's fascinating here is that it literally ceases to exist in your conscious awareness.
Right. When a shoe is engineered perfectly, when the leather is supple enough to move with the foot, when the shock absorption neutralizes the impact of the pavement, and when there are no internal seams causing friction, there is no buffering icon.
No spinning wheel in your brain.
Exactly. Your somatosensory cortex has nothing alarming to report, so your brain is free to allocate all of that cognitive energy outward. You can actually look at the architecture, you can listen to a deep dive, you can be present in the conversation with your friend.
And you are transitioning from the philosophy of design into the lived reality of the wearer here. Because if a shoe successfully disappears from the mind, what fills the void it leaves behind?
The memories. What do people actually remember? They remember the experiences.
Yeah.
The essay highlights this beautifully by detailing what happens when the founder searches the word miles in her customer email inbox.
I loved this part because the anecdotes that come up are not about the technical specifications of the trainers.
No, the customers aren't writing in to praise the the specific density of the foam cushioning or the tensile strength of the stitching.
They don't care about that.
Let's look at the Paris story she mentions. The woman who emailed in absolute amazement because she went out for lunch and then just started walking.
And just kept going.
She ended up covering 10 miles across the city on a whim and reached the end of the day completely blister-free. 10 miles of urban walking is a serious distance.
It requires a sustained period of low-friction movement.
And then there is the customer who bought a brand new pair of shoes and took the massive risk of wearing them straight out of the box to wander the cobbled streets of Prague for hours.
Oh, the classic tourist error.
The ultimate error. Usually that is a guaranteed recipe for bleeding heels and a ruined afternoon. But she emailed to say she walked for hours without a single issue.
There was also the traveler who packed foldable ballet flats in her hand luggage purely as a backup, like a just-in-case option for a long flight.
Oh, right, the flight one.
Yeah, she ended up putting them on and walking 7 miles in them while sightseeing.
But the story that really anchors the profound impact of this, and I think we need to talk about this one, is the Moonwalk London anecdote.
Ah, yes. The Moonwalk London is a phenomenal charity event.
For those who might not know, what exactly does it involve?
It is a nighttime marathon or half marathon, walk through the streets of the city. It's famous for participants wearing decorated bras to raise money for breast cancer causes.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, it is a truly grueling physical challenge that tests the endurance of both the participants and their footwear.
And a customer actually telephoned the Cocorose design studio about this. She didn't call to ask about a return policy or check on an order. She called simply to celebrate.
Because she'd worn her Hoxton trainers for the entire charity challenge.
Yes. And she needed the design team to know that the shoes carried her mile after mile through the night with zero pain. Does this mean the fashion industry has fundamentally misunderstood what consumers actually value?
I think it reveals a massive disconnect, yes, in how the wider fashion industry operates versus what consumers value on a day-to-day basis.
Because it seems the fashion industry largely values shoes as sculptural objects.
Exactly. They are designed to look beautiful on a pedestal.
Or in a photograph.
Yeah.
Or while you are sitting in the back of a taxi. But the moment you apply the dynamic forces of a human gait to them, the illusion just falls apart.
Yeah, it shatters.
These customer emails argue that the true value of a shoe isn't in how it looks when you are standing still. It is in the experiences it allows you to unlock when you move.
It is a critique of prioritizing form at the absolute expense of function. And to understand why those small moments of comfort result in 10-mile walks in Paris or completing a nighttime marathon in London, we really need to look at the behavioral science concept of friction.
Let's do that. And I want to make sure we define friction clearly in this context because we usually associate it with, well, terrible customer service.
Right, yeah.
Like a website that requires you to click through 6 different pages and make a phone call just to cancel a gym subscription. That administrative annoyance is friction.
Yes, that is psychological or administrative friction. It is any small obstacle that makes a behavior just difficult enough that we decide to abandon it.
Because the brain is lazy.
The human brain is naturally wired to conserve energy. We will always seek the path of least resistance. And the author of the essay makes the crucial connection that physical discomfort is the ultimate form of friction.
Because we can't negotiate with physical pain the way we can with a frustrating website.
Exactly. When your shoe pinches, your brain registers a massive spike in friction. The behavior walking has suddenly become biologically expensive. Your brain immediately begins scanning the environment to reduce that cost. It looks for the bus stop, the lift, the nearest chair.
So we connect this back to the NHS 30-minute walking initiative we started with. They were essentially trying to tackle public health from 2 different sides of the behavioral coin.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, yeah. How do you mean exactly?
Well, the NHS is using the marathon a month concept to reduce psychological friction. They're providing an incentive, a pull factor, to get you motivated. They are making the goal sound rewarding.
Right, making it accessible.
But if your shoes hurt, that physical friction instantly overrides the mental motivation. The immediate pain completely trumps the promise of future health. Good footwear does the opposite. It removes the physical pushback. It clears the path so that the motivation can actually be converted into action.
That is a vital distinction. Behavioral science consistently demonstrates that habits are not built on single, ambitious bursts of motivation. You don't transform your cardiovascular health because you felt incredibly inspired on the 1st of January.
Unfortunately true. I wish we did.
We all do. But habits are built entirely through repetition. You can only repeat an action consistently day after day, week after week, if that action is relatively easy and devoid of excessive friction.
So what does this all mean? It means we don't consciously weigh up if our shoes are influencing our long-term health outcomes.
No, we definitely don't.
We don't stand in the hallway and think, if I wear these uncomfortable boots, I will likely skip my lunchtime walk, which over 5 years will negatively impact my cardiovascular capacity.
No one thinks like that.
We just respond to how we feel in the moment.
Yeah.
We put the boots on, our feet hurt by midday, and we choose to sit at our desk.
It is the quiet accumulation of micro decisions.
But on the flip side, if you are wearing trainers that genuinely support your feet, the physical friction is gone. You don't have to debate whether to walk to the further train station, you just do it because it feels good.
And then one short stroll becomes a daily routine. Movement quietly integrates itself into your life without you having to grit your teeth and force it.
It ceases to be exercise that requires a pep talk and just becomes part of an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. As the author notes, the most successful shoes are the ones we barely remember wearing because they allowed us to be completely absorbed in the journey itself.
Which is a beautiful way to think about it. To synthesize everything we've pulled from this essay, the core mantra really does hold up to scrutiny. Comfort changes behavior, and behavior, repeated often enough, changes lives.
It is a truly powerful takeaway.
We should be careful to note, and the essay is quite grounded about this as well, that shoes alone are not a magic wand.
Right, they aren't going to do the walking for you.
Exactly. Simply purchasing a pair of well-engineered trainers will not spontaneously transform your overall well-being overnight if you just refuse to leave the house. But what they do is remove a critical everyday barrier to being active. They take the brakes off your natural inclination to move.
They absolutely do. So I want to turn this over to you, listening right now. Take a moment. Look down at your own shoes. Or think about the footwear sitting by your front door. What small, healthy decisions might you be subconsciously avoiding today simply because your shoes aren't physically comfortable?
Are you missing out on a walk? A longer conversation?
A bit of exploration in your own city just because of a minor pinch at the heel?
It is a very revealing question to ask yourself. And for those of you who are intrigued by the mechanical engineering behind this, how a shoe is actually constructed to mentally disappear, how the leather is chosen, how the soles are designed to distribute pressure, the source material highly recommends checking out their ultimate guide to women's leather trainers. It delves quite deeply into the craftsmanship and those tiny, thoughtful design decisions that make a genuinely comfortable shoe such a powerful tool for modern life.
It's a fascinating read if you want to understand the biomechanics of comfort. But before we wrap up today's deep dive, this entire concept of physical friction dictating our choices has really got us thinking about how our environment shapes our lives beyond just our footwear.
This raises an important question that extends far past our feet. If a minor physical friction, something as small as a pinching shoe, is enough to secretly alter our daily movement and, by extension, our long-term health, what other invisible physical frictions are hiding in plain sight?
Oh, that's a brilliant thought.
Think about your home, your office, your daily routines. Is your desk chair subtly discouraging you from sitting with good posture? Is the lighting in your kitchen slightly too harsh, subconsciously discouraging you from spending time cooking healthy meals? What other physical objects are secretly dictating the major choices of your life without you ever realizing it?
It is a thought that makes you want to completely audit your living space, honestly. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. It has been an absolute pleasure to unpack this research with you. Stay curious, check your shoes, and we will catch you on the next one.